It's a big day for Apple investors as the company is scheduled to report fourth quarter earnings after the bell. So joining us to break this down and offer a preview is Angelo Zino, equity analyst at CFRA. Angelo, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about iPhone sales because they comprise more than 50%, I think more than 60% of sales for Apple. We've seen those sales declining in the past 2 quarters. What are your expectations for this quarter?
Yeah, so Apple still remains an iPhone story, and our expectation here for the September quarter is about 45 million units, and that would be about a 6% year-over-year decline relative to the 48 million units last year. However, that being said, we do expect a number of tailwinds from Apple as it relates to the iPhone. First and foremost, they do have the iPhone 7 was actually rolled out a week earlier than the success was launched last year. So you've got an extra week of contribution from the new device that should help them. Also, you've got the Samsung issues that have arisen here, and we think the implosion of their phones are going to be a notable positive in the sense of an easing of competitive pressures for Apple. So those two factors are going to be great tailwinds, we think, for Apple.
And bringing up Samsung, I have to say you just took the next question out of my mouth. But let's shift gears here. Apple Services, Apple Music, Cloud, Apple Care, those have been big growth areas in terms of revenue. Will those services continue at that pace? What are you expecting there?
Yeah, for the services business, we continue to expect double-digit growth here for the September quarter as well as into the December quarter. For the September quarter, they'll of course benefit from the Pokemon phenomenon that occurred over the summer, and they will generate some revenue from there. So our view is expect another very strong quarter out of that services business, and we see no signs of that easing in the near term.
And how about China? I would imagine that's very much on the radar as it brings in the most quarterly revenue behind the Americas. Are we going to continue to see growth there, or are the comps too steep?
Yeah, when we look at China, the last 2 quarters, at least from an iPhone perspective, saw pretty steep declines. And we're not expecting much out of China here in the September quarter, just because the visibility is extremely low, and the competitive pressures are really intensifying given some of the local players out there really gaining steam. So low visibility, cautiously optimistic. We do think the iPhone 7 will do better than the 6S did out in China, but it's really tough to gauge demand out there at this point.
Yeah, and so we've got earnings after the bell today, but on Thursday we have the company hosting an event to show off what many expect to be an updated Mac computer. How big a deal is this?
Yeah, so the Mac business line is in much need of a refresh. So for the most part, this has been in recent quarters we've seen Mac sales really start to deteriorate. So this is much needed. Our view is we'll get the refresh here. It should help at least drive Mac sales to stabilization and potentially witness growth again in the coming quarters as a result of this refresh. And not to forget the iPad as well. The June quarter saw a nice rebound in iPad sales, the first time we actually saw revenue growth out of the iPad in more than 2 years, and that had mostly to do with the more expensive iPad Pro devices. So we actually think the iPad will actually do fairly well as well in terms of a revenue perspective.
And let's talk about holiday season and any guidance offered there, because this is arguably their busiest quarter each year. What are you expecting?
So as far as the December quarter goes, we're pretty much in line with where the consensus is looking at. We do think that at the very least the iPhone 7 you're going to see a pull-in in demand because it is starting in a week earlier into the September quarter. So you're not going to get as much of that super spike into the December quarter. However, there is an extra week on the calendar for that December quarter, and that'll help sales. So our view is expect about 72 million in iPhone sales for the December quarter. You also do have the launch of the Apple Watch as well, so you're going to get some nice inventory build in there, as well as some nice promotional efforts. So we think from where consensus is at right now for the December quarter, there actually is some upside potential.
And in light of all this, just to bring it together, where do you stand on the stock going into this afternoon's results?
So we continue to have a strong buy recommendation on the shares. Our 12-month target price is $130, and that's based on about a 12.7 multiple to our fiscal year 18 estimate.
Great. Well, Angelo, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. I'm Morgan Brennan. Have a great day.
Hey CNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Here you're going to find videos packed with all of the information that you need to be smarter about your finances. You can subscribe by clicking right here and click on all the videos around me or the I right here to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.